Hey there, this is Joe Polish. I'm here with my good friend, Mr. Manny Goldman from Real Growth Worldwide, and he's down here. We're brainstorming about Genius Network, and he's here for the 25K group because he's smart and he's a member. And I'm Joe Polish. Of course, you can kind of notice that from these little backdrops, and we have little cups that say "I-love-marketing.com." This is like very clever, subtle product placement. Anyway, Manny's like really super sharp in a ton of areas, and so wanted to ask you first off, for people that don't know who you are, because you have this business that does a ton of stuff, communicates with hundreds of thousands of people, and a lot of products that are sold that help people in all areas of their life, from fitness to personal development to marketing. But you're kind of a behind-the-scenes guy. You're not really known as one of these quote-unquote marketing gurus. But you're doing a lot, and so for someone that has never heard of you, who are you? What do you do?
Well, that's classic. Well, probably my biggest role, I'd say, as a parent. I'm a father of two. I have two kids under the age of 3, so I have a 2.5-year-old and a 1-year-old, a boy and a girl. I'm a husband, happily married for 4 years. So it's probably not the answers you were looking for, but those are
those are important. Those are important
in a business conversation. But those are really like my grounding. Things that are very important to me. But also a big student. One thing that we've talked about a lot is I do a lot of work on myself. I do a lot of coaching. A lot of that's my preference is one-on-one coaching. I do live events and I read books, but mainly it's a lot of coaching. And I do talk about dealing with the core rather than just the effect. So we also joke a lot about my story. So I've been arrested 6 times before the age of 22. I've been clinically depressed for more than a decade. I was obese to 245 pounds and failed in every area of my life. But right now I'm just a human being, loving life. But it's interesting in the industry. Want to call it information marketing, experts industry. People don't know what to classify me as. I think that's the fun of it. It's kind of a mystery. It's kind of a mystery.
I mean, I guess I'm kind of in the same boat. As much as I teach people about creating a unique selling proposition and doing all kinds of stuff in certain areas, to explain what I actually do is always not that easy. I mean, to people that are direct response marketers and kind of get it, they know. Right. But to just someone on the elevator speech,
I hate that question.
Very, very tough.
What do you do? Oh boy.
Yeah.
Here we go.
And so no, you're not defining yourself as kind of what you do, but who you kind of are. Your
Sure.
father. Well, let's go back to you. Let's talk a little bit about your story, because you have one of the things that I think is great about you is that you have overcome some tremendous challenges. Did you ever try to commit suicide?
Several times.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
I failed that too, apparently.
Well, thank God.
Thank you.
So, wow, that's a trip. What was it? I mean, so for one, let's kind of not to dwell on all of the horror stories. I just think it's really good for people to hear what you overcame, because if someone wants to be a successful entrepreneur, or any success in life, they are going to come up against massive adversity, tremendous amounts of self-doubt, criticism, attacks, people maybe even with the best of intentions guiding them in the worst possible directions, not believing they can do it, and in many cases not believing in themselves, especially when they've had many, many failures. And I know for a fact that many people that would be watching this conversation that we're having will be in a place where life is not working, where there's many areas that they don't have a handle on, where they have dreams and desires to be successful, but they feel just completely screwed up.
Right.
And there's others that have really made great successes of themselves, but they overcame incredibly great things. I mean, I tell a little bit about my story, which maybe I'll mention some, but more so I want to focus on what was it that caused you to get arrested 6 times, to have the lifestyle that you did, to be clinically depressed. I mean, other than the fact that your brain, of course, caused it, but I mean, what were some of the factors that led to that?
Well, I think the core of it really is that I was playing a game I didn't know how to play. There was no rules. So I had no idea how to be happy, how to be successful in any area of my life, and I was totally confused. I grew up in a very affluent area, and my parents weren't rich with money, but they were rich with love, and I just saw, I really attached my net worth, my self-worth to my net worth, and it just led down a path of, pain and destruction. So I just really destroyed my life and anyone else around it. My parents used to joke, because when I used to date girls, after a few weeks or a few months with me, they looked totally different, and not a good way,
The girls?
Yeah, they would. So, they were beautiful when I met them, and then after a few months, they were like, totally distraught, because they guys got into my world, and I was, abusive in various different ways. Could be verbally, mentally, or just being in my energy. You know, I don't know if people knew it, but I was I was in a bad place.
Yeah.
And I just didn't know any better. I didn't know. I went to psychiatrist, psychologist, antidepressants, just to figure out what is this? What's going on?
Right.
And so to answer your question also about success, I think is because I failed so many times. I had so many ways of not doing something that I kept determined. I was so determined that I kept eventually finding solutions, which we could talk about more, during this interview as well.
So what would you say to someone that, it's funny, people that are usually in the worst places and are not successful are usually not watching videos or reading books or doing things that actually helping them get out of it. So one thing I learned, which is a sort of an interesting thing, but if you really want to be successful selling how to be successful information, seminars, materials, is to focus your efforts on people that are already successful, because one of the reasons they're already successful is because they do those things.
Exactly.
And people that are typically not successful in life isn't working is because they're not willing to do those things. They're either not aware of those things, or they don't have the mental wherewithal, or whatever is inside a human being that causes someone to have access to the same things to take advantage of it, and things that aren't. And I think some of those things are, be it mental brain chemistry, true mental illnesses and things that make it very difficult. A lot of it is just, where your attitude is, your motivation, the environments, your rituals, your habits, and things that you develop. And so what would you say to someone who's in just a really shitty place and they just can't seem to get traction and get their life? They might have some periods of time where life is working, but they're still, and they just don't feel good about themselves, and they feel kind of hopeless. What do you say to someone like that?
Well, that's a loaded question.
Yeah.
Because if I was sitting down next to someone who had that issue, I'd ask them more questions to really see what's at the core of that. What I have found from my depth of work that I've done on myself is that a lot of it stems from some pains from childhood.
Yeah.
So if something happened at 5 years old, for example, that energy or that circumstance is still occurring in that 5-year-old's mind and heart. So there's a stuck energy that's going on that's driving you today. What makes you overeat, or what makes you depressed, so it's not usually what's happening right now. It's a lot of it stemming from the past. So it's a big conversation, and a lot to go deeper. But I would say is that find resources that deal with the cause, not the effect. I think society as a whole, or the Western population, deals with a lot of the symptoms. Let me pop this pill to cover up what's really going on. So to me, dealing with the cause was really getting a lot of one-on-one support, going to transformational seminars that dealt with a lot of the emotional stuff, and also being open. A lot of people who are in pain are also very skeptical. Either I've tried that, or I don't believe in that, or it's not going to work. So I do recommend being open to things that are just totally outside of what you maybe even believe in. Like, I'll throw in a random thing that you would think I'm totally hokey, is, let's say, past life regression. Can I figure that out mentally? No, I don't know. It doesn't make any sense to me mentally, but a lot of things don't make sense to me mentally. Gravity, for example, doesn't make any sense to me mentally, but it's obvious.
Well, it's interesting because when I first met you, the way you would talk to me about certain things is like, some of this I don't even believe in it at all, but I'm just going to kind of enter into it to kind of see, where it takes me, and and I think there's a lot that can be said about just exploring things, even for no other reason, to get you out of your own head.
Yep.
Because, as they say in 12-step groups, your best thinking got you here.
Exactly.
And it's a great line.
So true.
You don't need to go into 12-step groups in order to take tremendous value from that statement. I mean, if your life is not where you want it to be, your life is currently where it's at because of your very best thinking. I mean, the best thinking that you have done up to this point is where your life is at. And if you're not happy with your life, your income, your relationships, you need to change your thinking. And so sometimes that is, you talk about shock and awe.
Yeah.
Talk about that. I think it'd be
shock and awe. I mean, part of shock and awe is.
I talk about that in terms of marketing strategies, like putting a dollar bill to the top of a letter, or you have some sort of lumpy mail and shock and awe people in a theatrical sort of marketing campaign. Yep. But you're talking about it in a different context.
Well, I mean, shock and awe could also be is just do something totally outside of your comfort zone, of your awareness, like going to see a coach on past life regression, or going to see a spiritual coach that talks about stuff that you're not comfortable talking about. I was talking to a woman, I don't know why it came up, it just reminded me of this. I was talking to a woman the other day who was dealing with a real life experience in her life now. And when I started talking to her about her childhood, she just was so resistant to the fact that something in her childhood could have any effect on her life today. Mm-hmm. But when we started talking about an incident that occurred for her at 9 years old, she started getting anxiety and started getting really uncomfortable. And it was almost like the alarm at the safe that says, "Hey, don't go in there." Mm-hmm. You know. So that to me could be a version of shock and awe for your consciousness, for your mind.
Yeah.
To break through that, because if you're experiencing something right now in your life, I mean, you might be successful in your business, but your relationships are horrible, or whatever that may be. Mm-hmm. There's beliefs, there's circumstances, there's experiences that have happened either in your childhood or in your past, mm-hmm. or totally kooky would be in your past lives.
Now you're starting to weird me out.
Yeah, now the alarm's going off. You know, I had an experience, and people are going to really think I'm weird, but that's okay. Because if I'm smiling, then you know
even
that
if you think it's a complete fruitcake, we are going to talk about marketing techniques here and
yes.
business growth strategies and stuff that you'll still be able to, even if you don't buy it.
You can fast forward this part.
No. But look, again, to borrow something from 12-step groups, take what you like and leave the rest. That's how you learn something. I mean, I learned something from everybody, even if I think they're crazy, because even some people, everyone has a purpose in life, even if it served as a bad example.
Absolutely. Well, I would tell you to taste some of the things that you would want to normally leave. That could be possibly something that may help to change it.
Yeah. Okay. So going back.
Yeah. But I'm saying is that I wouldn't be talking anything about on this interview or with anyone that I care about, or anyone for that matter, that I didn't experience myself, that I enjoyed and got value from. So I was about to share an experience that I had with one of my coaches, that we did a past life regression, and it's basically hypnosis in a way.
Yeah.
But it's taking you back to a potentially a previous lifetime, and what came through there, which I don't need to get into specifics to let you know that. It verified things for me in this life that made no sense for me in this experience. Mm-hmm. Why I have certain levels of anxiety, or why I have certain trust issues with certain things that didn't have to do anything in this lifetime, didn't make sense from anything that I could remember, but it was verified for me and released. And since then, I haven't had those experiences that I've been having all my life.
Interesting.
So it's hooky, it's airy fairy, it's weird, but I've personally had the experience. So I was willing to go to the unknown and uncomfortable and the weirdness to test it out for myself. And it worked.
Okay, let's just make the assumption that all of that is actually true. Now,
okay.
I mean, you didn't trick your head to think it is or believe it is, although that has a lot to do with
right.
People's getting something. If they believe it to be true or they believe it to not to be true, they're probably going to live out the validation of that belief system, because a belief in a lot of ways just means you're not sure. You know? Now, having said that, there's a lot of people in the world that are selling snake oil. They're selling nonsense, and they're literally they prey on the desperation of people, and they can sell them. I mean, do I know if psychics are real or not? I mean, who am I to say? All I do know is there's a lot of fake psychics.
Right. And there's a lot of good ones too.
Right. Okay. So as in any area. So how would you recommend for people to explore things that are outside of anything they've done, even if it's just simply to get perspective? Are there any kind of boundaries, parameters, any suggestions you would give, so that as if you're in a bad state, how do you continue to improve? How do you go out and improve it without getting taken advantage of? And as I say this, I want to preface this saying that, hey, anything you're going to discover in life, there's going to be a risk level involved. And if you think that you're going to protect yourself from ever, being exposed to bad thing, I mean, good luck. That's not how life operates. I understand that. I'm just trying to think if you could maybe offer some suggestions on people in their pursuit of transformation, personal growth, that sort of stuff, through your very extensive experience, because I know you've done a lot.
Yes, I have, and I keep doing it because I get the results. I can look to me, it's like almost a business decision. It's return on investment at this point. But in the past, I would do it because I needed it. Now I do it because I want it.
Gotcha.
It's a big difference. But to answer your question, I would say a recommendation from a friend. Call someone who's quirky like me and just seems to be happy for no reason. A lot. What's his secret? It's weird. That could be one. Another could be is stop a happy person on the street and find out. What's their secret sauce.
Right.
But reading books. Is one. If you don't have any resources, let's say you don't have any friends who are into this work, you don't have anyone to reach out to that may have coaches or give you some recommendations, is go find, read some books. One that just came to mind when we're talking about happiness is Marcy Shimoff wrote a book called Happy for No Reason.
I know Marcy.
Yeah, she's a friend of ours. So
as soon as you said that, it's immediately that's titled over a book, Happy for No Reason.
Yeah. So I think she sold 14, 16, something like million copies. So I mean, happiness obviously is a very hot topic.
I think I should knock that off and unhappy for no reason. Yeah, that would apply to so many people.
It would. It would.
So, but there is always a reason, or is there not?
To be what? Happy?
Unhappy or unhappy?
I think the evolution that you get to eventually is for no reason. It starts to be conditional in the beginning for a reason, but then if that reason disappears, then you're in serious trouble. And that's happened to me multiple times. Happy because I got this success. Happy because I have this relationship. Happy because my kids are, are healthy, and all of a sudden they get sick, or my wife's mad at me, or my whole business turns upside down. It's like, now what?
Right.
So I think the end goal is to be happy for no reason, but it's a lofty goal. I mean, it's one of those things that takes a lot of getting rid of a lot of the what I would call weeds. Let's say you want to grow a garden. You can plant great seeds, you can continue watering, you have great sunlight, but if you don't pull out the weeds, then you're gonna have some you're gonna have some issues.
Yeah, exactly. Well, even Dalai Lama said in The Art of Happiness that happiness is a skill that can basically be developed and learned.
Right.
Yeah. So I think like anything else. So.
Yes. Very much so.
Great. So you mentioned you said secret sauce. And so you have some views, I know, about like the secret sauce of success,
right,
as an example. And first, I'd like you to define what the hell is success to you, because I personally think success is an individual thing.
Yes.
However, what does success look like to you, and what's the secret sauce of success? And then we're going to talk about making money and crazy things that I really like marketing and selling stuff to people and that sort of stuff.
Well, we talked about the secret sauce. To me, is really about doing the work, because to me, you're going to create success if you work hard enough at it and you push hard enough, but I think that you're going to sabotage it because you have all that stuff going on underneath. And I say you, I'm talking about other.
No, I know this is totally. I know
this is just you. Right?
I know you're singling me out.
So to me, success is very holistic. It's relational. It's health. It's business. It's spiritual. It's not just money. Success kind of has a money tone to it, and that's my whole life before recently was driven on money. I'd make almost every decision based on money, and that didn't lead. I got very short-term success, but I would break it up or sabotage it because it just wasn't fulfilling.
Right.
So now I make decisions based on integrity or based on what's most important. I'll go to work late to spend some time with my kids, or I'll just make different decisions. I mean, integrity meaning like, there's a lot of temptations in life, right? You're in a committed relationship and someone hits on you, or you want to eat healthy.
It happens to me daily.
And someone, right? You want to eat healthy and someone's having a party and there's a cake.
Right.
All these different things. So success to me is really very holistic, and knowing that you're always in process. It's not something that you arrive at. It's something that you continually to grow and expand, and knowing that you're human. So celebrating being human, because you're gonna mess up. You're gonna eat the cake that you don't want, and you're gonna feel bad about it. You're gonna have a fight with with someone you're in a relationship with. You're going to make a bad decision in your business.
Right.
You're going to do something that you had good intentions on, and maybe turns out to be didn't work out the way you wanted it to work out. So I'm very human. I know that I've made so many mistakes. But I man up to it. You asked me before the interview did I ever file bankruptcy, and my answer was close. Was because I was involved in real estate, and the cards fell around 2006, 2007. And rather than hit the reset button, I said to myself, well, how would I have to become to be able to overcome this financial disaster? It would set me up for success way more than just hitting the reset button. So I decided not to go file bankruptcy. In the last 2 years, I've paid back more than $200,000 of debt that I could have easily wiped out. So it had me to be more creative, to be able to create the success, to be able to pay it back. Because I'd be the same person if I just hit the reset button. It would just keep recreating it.
Gotcha.
So that's just one example.
And you were motivated too to actually.
Yeah. Because I had banks calling me, credit card companies calling me. Even I borrowed from friends and family.
Wow.
To build businesses and stuff. So I'm still paying back loans from businesses I started more than 10 years ago.
Interesting.
Because I felt like if I'm man enough to borrow it or I'm man enough to get involved, then I'm going to clean it up.
Gotcha.
So I've gotten myself in a good amount of messes, but I clean them up.
Do you think that the ability to take responsibility, I mean, I don't know how we would say on an interview to someone, be more responsible, don't have an entitlement attitude. I mean, it's that sort of stuff. I mean, you can say it, and maybe that'll awaken it for some people. I just think there's a tremendous amount of entitlement that exists for people, and my friend Dan Sullivan, who you know, he talks about as an entrepreneur, there's a couple of things you need to be successful fundamentally. Is one, to believe that you're not entitled to anything. Like, you are 100% responsible for your life,
right,
for your success, for your business. And secondly, is that don't expect anyone to give you anything, to make any money without creating value first.
Yes.
And the people that I see that tend to struggle financially, I mean, I'm just going to kind of keep this in the money-making realm for now,
sure,
is that they really just have a skewed they really think the world owes them something. And like, you were responsible enough to say, I created this mess, I'm going to clean it up. Now, there are probably situations where it's beyond someone's ability. I mean, they just, However, I think there's a lot of things that really are within people's abilities, but they have an entitlement, or they have this, they just won't take responsibility, so therefore they think it's out of control, and they take, if you want to call it, the easy way out, or they hurt people that if they just were more responsible, they could be more resourceful, they could get shit handled. What is it what was it that said, I'm gonna, instead of complaining, I'm gonna create? Because you can either create or you can complain. And if you actually have your brain wired to where you start thinking that way, the whole way you operate in the world is completely different. Absolutely. I mean, there were times where I was just hopeless. I mean, one of my things, I've talked about this publicly, when I was 18 years old in my worst possible state, I weighed 105 pounds from freebasing cocaine. I mean, I was a very unresourceful, I was very resourceful for destruction.
Oh,
if
sure.
I needed to seek out self-destruction, man, I was good.
Very good.
I mean, I could snatch success out of the jaws of defeat, easily, or defeat out of the jaws of success easily. I think I said that right. But I was So I was a mess. But I got to the point where boom, I just turned it all around, and more so, I just want to have people that are watching this kind of see how other people have done it, because I think more than anything, the reason I read a lot of success books, and the reason I go to seminars, is not because I haven't heard much of that stuff, if not all of it, many times before. It just is a continual reminder. It's like the gym for the mind.
Very important.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I always want people to hear other people that have overcome great adversities and how they did it, because I believe people always have more potential than they think they do. I have, I have a belief. I'm kind of a pessimistic optimist. Most people won't do it. However, I'm still a believer in humanity. Yeah. I'm still a believer in people's possibilities, and so that's why I do stuff like this and want to share it. So,
one thing that came to mind when you were talking, one is trust. Trust in something greater than you. Mm-hmm. I'm not a very spiritual, God, religion person, but I just kind of have a little more. I have faith in something that's, something's got to change. When you were talking about breaking through, when I'm going through my deepest and darkest, I tend to watch movies of people who've overcome. My favorite thing to watch is true stories of people that have overcome, adversity. Or I watch Rocky, or things that kind of get me in the mood of like, you can do this, you can break through. Right. So that's. You need something like that when you're dealing with stuff. And sometimes when you get more success, sometimes there's bigger stuff to handle, but you're a bigger, you're bigger in a sense where you have more capacity to handle it. So I don't sense that life will ever stop testing you, but to me that's the good news. But when I look back at all the big things, the disasters that I created, it's led me to be such a bigger person that could take on much more as far as success and happiness and all of it. So the first thing to do is don't really resist your situation, really embrace it.
Yeah.
And then from that place, you could actually have some ideas or inspiration to get you out of it. So it's like, when if you're in the dark, find that piece of light and walk towards the light. But if you don't think there's light or don't look for the light, you'll never walk towards that. I don't mean like look for the light like you're dying, but like look for the light of that inspiration of what's this mean? Like turning it inside out, rather than being a complete devastation. How is it actually going to be for your good?
Yeah.
So you're making up the story no matter what. Mm-hmm. So an event happens, you put a meaning to it no matter what, whether that's devastation or it's the best thing that's ever happened to you. So my suggestion from simplicity, it sounds much easier than it really is, but find a different meaning for what's happening. And
Gotcha.
throughout that meeting, you could actually go create something new. I look, for example, with the money thing, right, with the bankruptcy. I decided to make it into something, a challenge, like, let me see who I become, setting myself up for success, rather than being a devastation, like, I'm just going to hit the reset button because there's no hope.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've already been set up to fail, I'm done.
Right,
You know?
right.
So it's just creating a new meaning for it helps you trick your mind so that you could actually go and get a different result.
Yeah, and I actually think if you do need to play games with your mind and trick your mind, I mean, why not?
Totally. You're tricking your mind anyway, really.
Right, right.
That's
People
the whole
are doing
thing.
it all
People
the
don't
time.
get it, you know?
Yeah.
Most people don't get that you're always tricking your mind no matter what.
Mhm.
You're telling yourself it's a devastation, that's a trick. You know, that's
Mm-hmm.
not true either.
Yeah, and I do think you create in many ways your own weather. I mean, it could be a storm, or it could be, you know, the sunshine is always there. Even if there's clouds in front of it, it's just a matter of removing the clouds. And some people want to put that into a spiritual or religious realm.
I felt very spiritual, that was good.
Did you?
Yeah, I felt connected.
Yeah, maybe we should all. Okay. All right, so let's. Now that we got the therapy session for the interview, well, let me mention one thing. I have a friend named Austin Vickers who did a documentary called "The People versus the State of Illusion," and right now at the time that we're doing this interview, it's in independent theaters, and it's great because it's a story about a guy who actually is in prison, and he's very bitter. Well, he's in jail, and he's very bitter, and he doesn't know where his life's going to end up, and it kind of goes through this whole process of like, well, the prison that he's really in was the one that he created in his mind. It doesn't matter if he was physically there, and it's actually worth watching. It's called The People versus the State of Illusion, and he's come to a recent meetup group, I Love Marketing one, and we've been telling everyone in the meetup groups to go watch it because it has nothing to do with marketing. It's just a great way. Your mind has everything to do with stuff, though, because we're going to talk about marketing techniques here in just a minute, and I'm going to ask you some questions. I think we're going to. It depends on what you say. But however, I'm going to ask you questions about that stuff. It doesn't. If you're disabled mentally, though, and if you just have you're not in the right mindset, you can't take success knowledge or success tools or methodologies or processes or strategies and do a very good job if the foundation of your life is completely in shambles. So the first thing is fix your head, and then the second thing is that great brain that we all have can do tremendous things. And and I do a lot of crazy stuff too. I mean, I even got brain scans in the last year. I do hyperbaric oxygen treatment. It's because I'm a lunatic. And I have frontal lobe damage in my brain. To a certain degree, which makes me kind of distractible and weird and ADD. But it's a great game. You play around with it, and you learn how to make life work to the best of your abilities, and you don't compare yourself to other people. I mean,
that's big. Before we go into that, you said something about fix, and I wanted to not correct you because this is your show, but I don't think that.
Well, hey, I'm not perfect.
Yeah, right. I want to get rid of the premise that no one needs to be fixed.
Mm-hmm.
I really have found, at least I've carried this belief that seemed to work for me, is that everything that you've experienced or will experience is kind of part of the journey. I think this is kind of like the university of the universe, and I just think that this is all everything's a lesson, and every lesson that you get, you could decide to make it a good thing or something that's damaging. And it reminds me of my parents. There was a hurricane in New York recently. And my parents had a flood, and the flood they thought it was devastation in the beginning, but who knows? And then over a course of a time, they actually got a big check, right? And they're gonna maybe finish their entire house because of the flood damage. So one thing that seemed to be a disaster,
hopefully it was one of our professional cleaners,
but it can turn into a huge benefit for you if you allow it to or you look for it.
Yeah.
But we're beating that point up. What was the other part we were talking about?
No. One thing about, I guess, the terminology with fix is like when I go in and look at it's a difference between the context of, in my world of business, people have screwed up marketing that they certainly can fix and can improve.
Sure.
From the way of looking at it from the personal standpoint, I totally hear your point, and there's. I think there's a lot to be said too.
Comparing yourself to others.
Because a surefire way to be miserable is to continually compare yourself to others versus just bettering your own best. I mean, where you look at where you're at in your own life and create benchmarks against where you'd like to be and measure. You know, Dan Sullivan always talks about human happiness is really about how you measure. If you measure against the past and where you didn't meet up what you wanted to do, you didn't reach your ideal, which you're never going to reach your ideal, no matter how grandiose your goals are and how big you think, which I really encourage people to think big.
Yeah.
You know, shoot for
it's a moving target. So when you get your ideal just gets bigger. So it's like,
exactly.
There it goes. Yeah.
Exactly. So the point is, though, is to measure where you were at versus, you know, where you were at and how far you've come, not where you've not measured up, because you're always going to be miserable that way. And I have sat with people that are multimillionaires that the world loves them. I mean, famous, you know, I have clients that the world knows them. I mean, I have some of the most incredible, you know, I've at least 100 world famous clients. I mean, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, in some cases millions of people love and adore them, and a handful of them are miserable.
Right.
And the reason they're miserable is they're always measuring against where they didn't measure up. And there's
other
other
people watching them on TV wishing that they were them.
Exactly. And these people, if you ever met them, they don't wish they were them. And so part of it is just, you know, switching that around, and that's something that you do with your head. So
I can't say I've mastered that, but
well, I don't know anyone who's ever
I mean,
mastered perfectly anything, but a lot of people have gotten a hell of a lot better.
Sure. Oh, I've definitely gotten. If I'm okay, I was in my own pattern.
At least you're not getting arrested anymore, right?
No. The handcuffs, no more. So it reminded me of Dan Sullivan when he shared about one of your events that you did back in LA in last November 2010. You had Richard Branson speak, but you also had Dan Sullivan speak. And Dan shared how if he compared himself to Richard Branson's level of success, how would he feel versus compared to where he was 10, 20, 30 years ago. So that really, you know, it was really set home for me. It's like, wow.
Yes.
You know, so if I only compare myself to where I have been, oh my gosh, I've accomplished so much in my life compared to looking at other people and how far they've come, you know, how far they are against where I'm at. And a lot of times you're measuring one small piece of the pie. You're not measuring the whole thing. So you might say, wow, that person's got the financial success. So if you are going to compare yourself to someone, let's just say that's a human condition, that we compare ourselves, then I would ask that you compare yourself or strive for certain areas of their lives. Because everyone's a work in progress, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So pick certain segments of each person. I want this person's body, I want this person's level of success. But if you say I want to be that person, just know that person comes with a lot of baggage. And that may, you know, cause some problems too.
More than most people would ever know.
Right.
So, and you know, and there's a lot to be said of you know, just because someone has great PR, and just because there's a great representation of them in the media, has nothing to do with the reality of their life. There's some real human suffering. And the point is, more than
this
anything,
industry too. You know, the celebrities in this industry and people who are watching may be in information marketing industry or internet marketing, and they may see some people that have financial success or notoriety success, and they may look at them and say, "Oh my gosh, they have something that I don't, and why not me?" And go down a whole rabbit hole.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. So I like discussing this stuff because more than anything, if someone doesn't like it and you just want marketing techniques, there's plenty more marketing techniques. Just go to one of these websites.
Something like that.
Okay, so let's talk about making money.
Cool.
I mean, that sounds like a loaded question. Like, how do you make money? Although that's kind of like what's floating around in my head. I mean, there's lots of different ways to make money. There's lots of different marketing techniques. There's lots of different ways to sell. You know, what are your thoughts on what does it take for a person to make money?
Well, that's a loaded question again, but I would say first you got to start with
everything's gonna be a loaded question here because I want to get all esoterical.
So what are you passionate about? I think that's really important. To me, I was in businesses just for money, so I'd go to the next big fad, and then that would go away and keep going. So first, start with something that's you're aligned with your passion. That might seem obvious for those who are watching, but I think it's really important to align with something that you have a real passion for. Like I have a site called It's All About Women. I'm passionate about women for obvious reasons. No, that's a separate conversation. But no, but really, the reason why I do it is not because it's women. It's because I'm really passionate about personal growth and development, and the biggest segment in that category is women. So I knew that I was going to be doing when I had my personal transformation. I knew that I was going to be in this industry. I didn't know how or what way, but I kept following my passions and kept true to that, and it unfolded on its own.
Right.
So that's one, is definitely following your passion, and really do something that's true for you. Like, I see people who take on business models or ideas based on what other people have success on, but do what's based on you, your strengths, and what's something that you want to do. So don't, build a product or a website or a membership site or a live event if you don't want to do those things.
Right.
Do what you love to do, and the rest will find itself. And the next thing I would say, more importantly, is, and you know this better than most, I would say, is relationships. When I meet somebody, and I believe you do the same thing, it's always, who do you know and what do you know that can make the greatest impact for that person.
Right.
That's been the secret sauce for my success in this space, I would say, is everyone I meet. So I become the person they need to know, because I tend to be connected to a lot of people because I'm constantly adding value to these people. And then the automatic question is, how can I help you?
Yeah.
Not always, but I just keep giving and giving and giving from my heart, of connecting them to someone else they can make money with, giving them an idea of their business. So you have to obviously be out there, meaning that you have to be out in events or meeting people to be able to add value to people's lives. But to me, I would say, more than anything, I would say, is that's one of the things that I've been able, how I'm actually in this seat today, is because I've added value to people. Not, add enough value to be able to, obviously be a 25K member, but also to be here. There's a lot of 25K members who have not sit in the seat, may never sit in the seat. So a lot of it is building relationships, and it doesn't have to be as simple as being the funniest guy or to have this great skill set of being in a relationship. I would just say, is just in your mind, always think about, who do you know, what do you know that can make the greatest impact. Because when you're connecting two people, for example, you're adding value to both people. Now, both people are somehow indebted to you, not exactly that way, but they know that you've added value to them. So if you need something, you can reach out to them. I love what you said in the Magic Rapport formula about, be the person that people take your phone calls.
Right.
So I've given so much goodwill to people that I know if I have a situation, I can call them and they're on it for me.
Yeah.
So that's I think it's really important.
And there's tremendous confidence that comes with that too. And you mentioned something I really want to emphasize, is that always saying, how can I help you?
Yes.
Now there's a difference between just saying the words, how can I help you, and what you're really doing is, that's a disguised way of saying, you can help me, but let me pretend that I want to help you.
Yeah.
But to really say, how can I help you, and to the core of your being, that's who you are, because you really want to be useful, you want to be generous, you want to be valuable for somebody, and you want to create value for them. And when you literally come from that place of giving, not taking, the world will give you tremendous amounts. There is a lot that I've learned about the world, gives to the giver and takes from the taker. And if your whole being is about, I'm not going to do anything for you if you don't do this for me first, or I'm going to hold all of my ideas, all of my value, all of my connections really close, and I'm not going to give any of those up unless, you're going to give me something first. I just think it's a short-sighted way to approach life. And secondly, I don't, unless someone's really lucky, I don't think people like that ever reach great levels of success. They may make
sustainable success.
Yeah, they may make a little bit of money here and there, but they usually don't have as many friends. They certainly don't have like a karmic sort of reciprocity that exists.
Right.
And more than anything else, just go out there and give as much as you can to people. Even when I was a dead broke carpet cleaner, and to this day, I've trained thousands of people in service businesses how to create offers and to go out and generate business. And in the carpet cleaning industry, I created this offer where you give away a free room of carpet cleaning. Right? And this sounds maybe boring.
People got a little nervous, right? Because they didn't want to give away a free.
Oh, of course, and they still do. There's all kinds of idiots that are incapable of really even trying it or reading. This is like the very best offer. Like any carpet cleaner in the world right now that is struggling getting business could solve it instantaneously, because I've created the very best offer in the world and have sales letters, promotions, web offers, everything that tie into that offer. There's no reason that anyone in the quote-unquote carpet cleaning business should ever have a problem getting business.
You see that equivalent online, free reports or whatever.
Of course. Yeah. And now some people, they're now the point I'm making though is that offer is predicated on giving something first. Not like, I refuse to give away a free room of carpet. Now, there's a process to do it. If you just give away free rooms of carpet cleaning to someone that's renting an apartment and has no vested interest in it, that's not the right.
They have a studio, and then
right. Yeah, so it's a context issue too. You know, I mean, it's not just give away free stuff. The point is, it's how you do it. It's the intention behind it, and it wasn't a trick. It wasn't like bait and switch. Like, I'm going to give you a free room, but then I'm going to do a high pressure sales pitch. It was sincere. You know, even the letters say no cost or obligation of any kind, and if you do decide to get any additional cleaning done, it comes with a 100% money back guarantee. I mean, a really true, legitimate offering. And you know what? I went from $2,100 a month average gross in this carpet cleaning business to over $12,300 a month within a 6-month period. I didn't know anything more about how to clean carpets. I didn't become a worse human being or a better human being. Maybe I became a better human being. I just simply changed the message and changed the offer. I mean, I made an offer that was very much about take the risk away from someone and let me, if I say I'm good, let me prove it.
Right.
And now my point is if you make that, whatever business you're in, if you come from that sort of place, I think, you know, the world in many ways can be your oyster. You know,
I think those who are watching this, though, I think that we're kind of speaking to the choir. I'm assuming. I think the bigger issue might be is that they may have a harder time receiving. So receiving is, to me, is just as important. I'm not saying taking. I'm saying, you know how many times people say...
Because I'm sitting there listening to this right now thinking, okay, what can I get from Manny?
So people, I think, if someone does something for you, or you may automatically think, oh my gosh, I got to reciprocate. I have to give them something in return.
Right. So
what you're basically saying is I'm uncomfortable receiving, so I have to give you to equal out that energy. And that can get you in some serious trouble when you want to create success.
Yeah.
Because if you're not willing to receive, then how can you ever have success? Because having success, especially financially, is about receiving. Because if success and money is energy, which some people claim that it is, and that seems to be.
I think you're alluding to that.
Yeah, they're getting a little crazy.
You're getting a little kind of
about the other side.
Weird. We're finding out all kinds of strange things about you all the time.
I'm quirky dude. But so yeah, so I think a lot of it is receiving. So if someone says, you know, how can I help you? Let's say they turn it inside out. They do it for you first. Generally ask them, give them an answer of how they can help you.
Right.
You know, or sometimes that question kind of is so broad that people don't even know where to begin.
Right.
Maybe you just have to listen to them and find out what they're doing, what they're up to, what they're passionate about, and what their challenges are, and then automatically think of some solutions for them. Because I think that question, even though it's a great question, sometimes it's so loaded and people don't know how to answer it.
No, well, and that was my point about coming from a place where you really can deliver value. Because I get people all the time that see me connect. I mean, it's weird. I talk about it now because it's just the #1 thing I get asked all the time. How do you meet all these people that you meet?
It's
how
a
do you
human trick.
Yeah. And I'm so close to it that I usually don't even think about it. I just intuitively do it. And so one of the things that people always notice about me is that I'm always asking, and I'm always trying to be helpful. How can I help you? And a lot of times, that doesn't mean I can spend time with anyone. Right. Sometimes it means go listen to my I Love Marketing podcast. It's free. There's tons of, you know, even if you never give me a penny, you know, you're going to learn some of the most amazing, you know, so I have stuff like that. It's just that when people come up to me and say, how can I help you? And it's just like, you know, I don't need any help from you. You know, so, and because it's such a broad thing that I don't know how to answer it. Right. So, yes, my point is not to just use that as a blanket statement all the time. The point is to get yourself first into the mindset that you're actually, you are that way. You're willing to actually be useful and valuable, and then of course you have to determine what is the value creation for the other person.
I think it's okay to have interior motive. Let's say someone watching this video
has
wanted to get to you. Let's say for some reason they wanted to know you. I don't know why they would want to do that, but let's just say they wanted to, right?
Yeah.
Maybe
they send me cars.
It's
they
weird, right? They do a lot of cool things like that. But maybe they wouldn't automatically go to you. Maybe they go to someone in your organization and build a relationship with them first, and all of a sudden add so much value that they start buzzing about this person. Exactly. And before you know it, you're gonna come up to you. You're gonna meet them, or something's gonna happen. You're like, oh, that's you. You know, thank you for doing this, that, and that. And that's kind of a lot of what I've done in the beginning was I'd volunteer at events, or I'd connect marketing directors to all these different people. And before you know it, I became friends or friendly with the figure behind the business or the owner of the business because of that.
Yeah.
So there's creative ways to add value without having to always add value to the person that you want to target. So it's okay, I think, to have interior motives to want to, you know, build a relationship with someone, so you're adding value, but the genuineness has to come from adding the value. Don't say I'm going to add value because you want to have this. That's kind of like manipulation.
Right.
I would say do it because you want to do it.
Oh, and look, I have no problem with knowing that I want something from somebody and I'm willing to do something in order to get what it is I want. There's just a big difference between using and abusing someone versus utilizing and enhancing someone. So, you know, there's a lot of people that look, I mean, I'm very big on using reciprocity, psychological guilt, sometimes, you know, shaming, you know, people. And when I say shaming, I don't mean like psychologically breaking them down. It's like really just using psychological triggers in order to help lead people to a bigger future. I mean, if you're doing something that's screwing up your business, if you've got great value for the world and you're not putting it out there, I mean, if I have anything that's going to assist someone in getting better, as long as it's legal, moral, and ethical, damn it, I'm going to do whatever I need to do in order to get things done within reason.
Sure.
You know, the whole point though is that, you know, we can talk about this stuff till we're blue in the face. Absolutely. A lot of it though has to do with the character of a person. Because I say it all the time.
Everything we said.
You send a asshole to an empowerment seminar, you're going to have an empowered asshole. You send a really great human being to you're going to make them more of who they are. So the point is, if you want more good stuff, it first has to start with who you actually are and where you're coming from, and then all of it, if you want to call them tricks, strategies, whatever, are just going to reinforce what that is.
But I would add to what you're saying is that. I think at my core, I was always a great human being or a great person or had great intentions. But life, or how I interpreted life, had me wear a lot of masks where I felt like I had to take from someone else to get ahead, or I had to protect myself from the world or from other people because I didn't want to get hurt or robbed or manipulated or whatever. So I think a lot of people at the core, obviously, I would think they're born as a loving, caring human being, and then life happens. And then their parents might abuse them, or they might get abused by life in some way, and all of a sudden they feel like they have to go take before they can go give, or they feel like or they have to please people to get. So I think a lot of what we talked about early on in this interview was really about getting back to who you really are, and being and having a higher level of trust to know that no harm is going to happen that you can't handle. So if someone screws you, you'll find a way to make good of it. You'll find something good out of it, or whatever that may happen.
And just being a more capable human being. And yes, I like this is funny because I think of this this whole process of identifying where you want to spend your time and energy and who's your one of the things we teach, and I love marketing, one of the profit activators is select a single target market as an example. And people have a challenge with, well, who do I actually want to serve? Who is my target market?
Everybody.
And one of the ways that I've been helping people with that is something that I learned a lot about by hanging out with Dan Sullivan, who's one of my very best friends. He's the founder of Strategic Coach. And it's who do you want to be a hero to? And so when I think in my life, who do I want to be a hero to? I want to be a hero to entrepreneurs, which is why I do interviews like this, and we just put it out there to the world. That's why most of my money comes from entrepreneurs. And I want to be a hero to addicts, people that in many cases, many people would consider bad, rotten human beings. And I know there's a big difference between doing bad things because it just happens to be the only coping mechanism that you are using at the time to get through pain and anxiety and stress and depression in life, but also know that doing bad things doesn't mean you're a bad human being, because there are many wonderful human beings that have done bad things, myself included. And part of it is learning from that and hoping that I can continue to move forward in life by minimizing the amount of intentional or unintentional collateral damage that's ever done to someone, knowing that if you're going to go, like for instance, if you read the shit that's on the internet, like on YouTube videos and book reviews and stuff, you realize there are some really angry, just disgruntled and toxic human beings that, when Steve Jobs died, I mean, some of the, he's known to not have been like the nicest, manager guy in the world, and just the viciousness that some people will write about and stuff. There's just a lot of hatred out there. And the fact is, you're not going to do anything in the world of any substance without getting critics, without getting attacked, without people really taking pot shots at you. Some of them may be deserved, but for the most part, people that are quote-unquote losers, not that they're loser human beings, but they just have not won in life, you know, a lot of times criticism is just self-hatred turned outward. So one of the things I always want to remind people of is that, look, you know, do your best to be a caring, giving human being, create tons of value out there, but go out there and do shit. Right. And be okay with the fact that a lot of people not only are not going to support you and maybe not like you, some will hate you and despise you and vilify
some
you.
May screw you over, and that's going to be
exactly.
Okay.
And that's okay, because it's like, you know, the best way to you know, if the best thing I think you can possibly do is just build a really successful, you know, life and income for yourself. Okay, so let's talk about some of the things that you're really good at. You market to women. Why do you market to women other than the fact that you like women? And that makes total sense to me. It doesn't even need an explanation. You know, what's the difference of marketing to, say, men versus women? Or, you know, I mean, it is a niche,
yeah, sure.
But at the same time, you're very effective at it, and you have, you know, thousands of women that your company has guided into becoming more successful.
It really stems to the previous conversation you just had about finding your target market. For me, I really wanted to help every human being on the planet get some of the success that I had from the transformations that I had. The people who were suffering.
As long as they're women.
Right. And I did, you know, I had personalgrowth.com, I have realgrowth.com, and they weren't getting momentum because they were just so generic.
Right.
And so, and you know, so it just kind of fell in my lap a little bit, and that's a whole long story in itself to how I got to women. But women is, like you said, it's a target, it's a niche. Entrepreneurs is a target, it's a niche. So women will flock together. So we have a community called It's All About Women, and you know, when women get to that site, It's All About Women, they get it immediately. Right. It's about making their life even better. And we launched an inspirational viral movie called The One Flaw in Women. And women are like, what do you mean?
There's only one?
Yeah, I was waiting for that. But what do you mean?
I want my female friends to be like, all right, well, you're going to pay for that.
Yeah. But it's a movie that builds them up. You know, I think women are underappreciated. You know, in so many ways, they really keep us, you know, united and love and all that other good stuff. So,
well, having seen your wife, you know, tolerating you, I mean, I absolutely.
My wife's been through the ringer and back with me. You know, she's been with me before I had my transformation. So, yeah. And throughout the transformations, because I'm human, so I still, you know, retreat sometimes back to my old ways, and she puts me back in my place. And we have a relationship coach, and anyways, so women, so it's a niche, you know, and in this, something that I'm passionate about. That's a good way to find your niche, and your target is find something you're passionate about. Women happen to be the largest market in the personal development market. So in our site, we focus on all areas of personal development: health, relationships, mind, money, you know, spirit, and we focus on all areas. So some of the success with that is the viralness of it. Women tend to share things; they find it valuable. So I had an interesting question about, you know, why is it not It's All About Men? It's because men don't flock together that way. They don't do that. They wouldn't have that same level of community that women will.
Right. I'm thinking we should go get pedicures later.
I do. Another weird thing is I'm metrosexual, which doesn't sound right. I should probably edit that out of the video. But
we're gonna leave it.
I get manicures, pedicures, and I do.
No, so do I. I have a freaking smiley face on my toe right now.
You know, it's godliness. So.
Yeah, and I think having a sense of humor, which most. Well, I should say.
Should we show them your toe, or
we could, but it's online. They can find it.
Oh, they can. Okay, so Google Joe Polish's toe, and they'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll have to make sure there's like a video or something that's keyword tagged, so if they type in Joe Polish's, you know, toe, they can. Yes, but no.
Come in some product that they'll buy somehow.
Oh, it's great too. Now, first off, just have a freaking sense of humor. You know, some people lighten up. I mean, some people are really uptight, and they would be well served to just lighten up. And you can get a smiley face painted on your toe. Okay, so yeah. What else? What else about women?
No, but women, so that for sure. And I've seen it seems that, you know, in the personal development market, that women really are doing a lot of the growth. I wonder where men are going to be 10, 20, 30 years from now or beyond, because women are the ones who are dominating the growth market. Even now, women are dominating the entrepreneur market. So it's like, where are the guys? What are they doing? Right. You know, I'm definitely concerned about them. But I can tell you that women are doing, you know, they're interacting. You know, we have high open rates, high click-through rates, high interaction. So the women are taking action and doing stuff.
You know, one of my very good friends who's in the dating space, teaching men how to meet women and women how to find men. The conversion is almost double to the same size list with women. And you know, all the work that I did with Bill Phillips early on with Body for Life, the you know, involvement from women in the physique transformation contest was a much higher conversion than the men. And so yes, women are very active in certain categories.
Yes.
Now that leads me to, you know, segmenting your list versus like mailing your entire list. You know, let's take internet marketers where they build a list and they have all of these leads that are coming in from different sources, or they're doing affiliate campaigns, and you're very good at segmenting and targeting specific lists based on human interest and behavior. And I'd like you to speak to that, because in the area of marketing, you know, which many of the people watching this are marketers, they love marketing, they're into direct response, they're into measuring and tracking. One of the things is just, you know, marketing is what, you know, you're offering your list, you know, what you're offering and who you're mailing it to, and the better the quality of the list, the better it's segmented, the better results you're going to get. So,
well, some of the obvious things I would say before we talk so specific about segmenting is adding value. So we send emails every day. So the conventional wisdom would tell you mail 2 or 3 days a week, because you don't want to send them too much. Maybe some people might think 2 or 3 days a week is too much. But I have found now I send every day, sometimes more than once a day, that we're actually getting better response. But not everything's a sales message. So we have inspirational movies, newsletters, you know, articles, and then some offers. So we definitely mix it up. As far as segmenting, in Infusionsoft, we track every action they take. Every click has a tag that says health, relationships, says what type of offer, says whose offer is it, what particular affiliate or product owner is it, what subtopic. So if it's health, we also have weight loss. So we've been able to double or triple our conversions, open rates, and click-through rates and sales by only targeting people based on what they've said they're interested in. I thought it was a great idea to have surveys. But what I found was that what people tell you they want and what they actually take action on are two different things. So I use surveys for just people thinking that I care what they want, which I do, but I'm more interested in what they actually do than what they want. So the surveys is more of a trick to, not trick, but more of an opportunity to tell them that, listen, we care what you need and what you want. What we really go for our data is what they take action on.
That is so true. You know, people, even Steve Jobs would say that, you know, most people don't know what they want until you just give it to them.
So true.
You
so
know,
focus groups are basically useless.
Yeah, that was his thing where he's like, you know, no one was sitting around saying they wanted an iPad.
Right.
He created an
iPod.
iPad, and gave it to them. You know, and so there's a lot to be said about, and you know, buyers in a lot of ways are liars. As much as, and that came from Larry Steinmetz, who wrote a book years ago on selling at prices higher than your competitors, and I've interviewed him and, you know, had him, you know, seminars and stuff years ago, over a decade ago, and he had this line about buyers are liars, and not that saying they're bad people, it's just that what they tell you versus how they respond are completely different things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's interesting.
So we do a tremendous amount of segmenting. We have 3 different types of lists just from one list. We basically put people in 3 different lists. We have our movie list, which we send a weekly inspirational movie, which adds about 1,000 people to our list a week without having to pay for traffic or pay for affiliate commissions. We have our newsletter lists where we send dedicated newsletters where when I say dedicated, I mean topic specific. So we'll send, you know, health newsletters, relationship newsletters, money newsletters. So we basically tag the open, so we know those people are interested in those things. If they're opening a newsletter that says health in the subject line, we know they're interested in health. Same thing that we have our recommended resources, which are our solo mailings. So we basically are segmenting everything. Infusionsoft allows you to automatically tag, once you set it up, right, just tag what people click on. The open stuff is done more manually. You have to go back to the message and tag those people as they've opened a health offer. So I don't send very generic subject lines. I make it a little bit more specific so I know what topic they're interested in. And when instead of sending to the whole list, I'll send to just the health list. And what that allowed me to do is actually send a lot of times 2 mailings in one day, but to different segments, so that someone's not getting 2 emails in a day. So I'll send a health, you know, email out and a relationship email out to those different segments, and people make sure I exclude the other so that they don't get 2 emails. It's allowed me to potentially even double my profits by doing that way.
Right. So how does someone learn how to actually do that, other than, you know, you talked about have a software like Infusion that automatically does
it's a CRM, customer relationship, you know, so other systems like iContact or GetResponse or whoever doesn't offer that, you can segment opens and clicks, you know, manually. So you could technically do it if you want to do it in a very big manual process. So I recommend Infusion for that. You know, a lot of people say, well, Infusion doesn't have good deliverability. Well, instead of just taking what people's told you in the past, test it. Because I know that some top marketers, and myself included, have tested it, and there hasn't been much of a difference at all.
Well, what's funny is I was the second direct marketer to ever use Infusionsoft, and we've had it in my company for years.
Yeah.
And so part of it though is understanding
How do you use
just
it?
tracking and just understanding the reason to track and segment and
Yes.
all that. Okay, well,
Very
you do
clear.
a tremendous amount of affiliates, and
Yes.
so what is affiliate marketing for someone that really doesn't, a lot of people watching this are, that's how they make their living.
Sure.
A lot of people, they have no earthly idea what affiliate marketing is, and so I'd like you to define it and talk a little bit about making money doing affiliate stuff.
Yeah, well, let's say a product owner owns a product. Typically, if they have an affiliate program like ClickBank or Infusionsoft, they offer affiliates, people who are like salesmen, basically, commission-paid salesmen. They basically get they promote it to their list, their Facebook page, they buy traffic, and they drive traffic for you, and they get paid on the result. So you're not paying for advertising, you're paying on someone who gets you a sale. And you pay them a percentage of the sale. I recommend, honestly, tracking them on every level of the sale, all the upsells and the downsells, lifetime commissions as long as possible. Get them in Infusionsoft, do it because ClickBank only has 60-day tracking. With Infusionsoft, you could actually track IP address, email address, and cookie. So you pay them for the long run. So I think the bigger checks that affiliates get, the more they want to promote for you. A lot of people try to say, how can I give the least amount of the affiliate so I can get the lifetime value of the customer? What they're missing out is that affiliate won't mail for you over and over again if they don't get big enough checks from you. So I think paying them what they're worth or more than what they're worth is important, so that actually you'll get more money in the long run. It's kind of like, why jump over to pay them less for a short-term gain, but you lose out in the long run.
Gotcha.
I think that's a big thing. So our whole business is affiliate based. So how I basically got into it was as a joint venture broker. So a joint venture broker basically connects two parties together to do affiliate deals.
Right.
Back and forth. So if you're new to this game, I would say use ClickBank Marketplace as a place to find product owners who sell well. It's a good thing about ClickBank is they have credit. They show you results. Someone doesn't have to tell you, this product sells really well. ClickBank tracks it, so you know who the best sellers are. So if you're new to the affiliate game, I'd recommend using ClickBank as a marketplace to find. So one thing that I've done is if you want to have some affiliates that are proven to do well, also that are not out of ClickBank, is sign up for other people's email lists who are on your niche and find out who they're promoting.
Gotcha.
And then promote their stuff. I mean, it's an obvious one, but maybe it's not so obvious, right?
Yeah.
Common sense is always not so common. So
Not at all.
get on those email lists of other people in your niche and find out what they're promoting. Because chances are, if they're big players in the space, they're promoting things that are proven to convert well, that would sell well.
Cool. Well, yeah, and plus, because I'm so cool and attract, the top marketers into my world, ClickBank and Infusion are both members of my 25K group, which you can find out more information at 25kgroup.com, but you have to be a really, high-level sort of marketer, and you have to love direct response marketing and preferably actually offer something that really is, cool and awesome and useful. So, the other thing I want to ask you about is you have some very unique ways of getting stuff done. So team building and really outsourcing are some of the last things I want to ask you about, and then we'll wrap up our conversation here and let people take all of the how to fix your head stuff in the beginning. No, it's a fix. I'm just messing with you.
I know, yeah.
Just messing with you. So they can ponder all of the things that we talked about on this very unique and interesting conversation.
Kind of roller coaster.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was kind of cool, and hopefully, hopefully you, as our very happy for no reason listener, viewer, have got a lot out of it. So yeah,
Right.
Team building and outsourcing.
Well, let's start with outsourcing. I would say is one thing we talked about a little earlier was that I have 3 team members in the Philippines. So it's not a new concept.
Do they like
People
you?
are talking. I don't know. I don't deal with them that often. That's part of the team building is that outsource things that you're not good at. So one thing I don't like to do. I mean, I could do it, but I don't like to do is management. Ongoing operations.
Right.
So I have a team member who does that. So they manage the people in the Philippines. So one thing I found out in the Philippines is that workers only get paid anywhere from $150 to $200 a month for full-time service. So what I decided to do was start with one, and they recommended a friend, and then they recommended a friend, was double their salary. Because it didn't change my life any. If I doubled their salary, I know what the kind of impact it would have in their life.
Right.
So imagine you doubling your income.
Yeah.
That's nice.
It's pretty cool.
So regardless of the numbers, it's still the same thing. So my philosophy was double their salary. And what I usually do is start with a 90-day trial. So I didn't double their salary right away. I would start with a trial for 90 days, see if they're if they're right, if they're a good fit. Ideally, find someone who's college educated, a little bit older, somewhere in the late 20s, early 30s, or I have found that they're I've tried others and it doesn't work as well.
Gotcha.
So now I have 3 full-time employees in the Philippines that do great work, and I train them, and we give SOPs, standard operating procedures. We train them, so it's not like they come here with all these great skill sets. But if you guide them and train them and allow them to make mistakes, any team member is going to make mistakes. I don't care if they're from the U.S. or not. And the thing I had to get over was I really wanted to take care of someone in the States, and someone said to me, "What's the difference of feeding a family here versus feeding a family in the Philippines? It's a global economy. You're taking care of one person, anywhere." So that's what we do.
That's how you rationalize it.
That's exactly how I do it. So that's and all subcontractors. There's obviously people in the Philippines are subcontractors, but even my team members now are subcontractors. And good thing about team building is that we add a lot of value. I like to use we a lot, but I add value to their lives. I'll buy them coaching sessions. One of my team members on my operations side, he had a situation where his car. This is it's a story, but I think it's worth talking about. Is he needed to get a tune-up on his car. It was $850. At least he was quoted that, and he couldn't afford it. At the time, he just got so much going on. So, because I don't pay a lot, but I add a lot of value in other ways. So, to make a long story short, I made a couple of calls, and I basically got it done for $100.
Wow.
So that's the level of support.
I know who I'm going to call whenever I need to.
Well, my dad was a mechanic for 30 years, but it's just another example of adding a value.
Right.
So, for example, one of my writers comes on for a lot less than she would charge other people, but I'm giving her free education that would cost her thousands. She's getting personal mentorship from me of anything that she needs for her business. So the same value that I would add for an affiliate, I'd mail for a business partner, a friend. I do that for my team members. So I'm always about building up my team members from a personal perspective. So we treat them like people, but also in a business end. And so I train them on skill sets that make them more valuable in the marketplace, over and over again. So
which is huge, and I think that's why most people that ever come to any of our events and meet my team, they realize that these are people that genuinely care about them, and I think because almost everyone that works with me, for me, is very much continually in an environment of getting personal development and going to seminars and getting coaching, because part of your effectiveness as a human being in your career in the workforce, entrepreneur or not, is really all the stuff that you're doing outside of work to make you a better human being.
So care about them as human beings. Get to know them more, because their frustrations and finances or relationships or health or whatever it may be is going to affect their work. So I always provide personal coaching and mentorship for my core team, and then I ask them to pass it on to the other core team. So let's say, for example, my operations person, I personally mentor him. I do anything I can to build him up in so many different ways, and then I ask him to be the mentor for the team that he's working with in the Philippines. So he becomes their mentor, and he's grown because he's teaching.
Gotcha.
So that's one great thing about team building, and I think a friend of ours, Brendan Bouchard, said it well. Is support the people that are in your core network, and have them support the others. So instead of you having to manage 20 people, manage 3 people and build them up, and let those 3 people build up the other 20 people.
Right. No, which is great advice. And someone's making a bunch of disruptive noise in the background. So if you hear that on the video, don't worry about it. So anyway, we're pretty much going to wrap this now. So. How do people find out more information about your company and some of the trainings and things that you're doing?
I would say that the easiest is probably go to realgrowthworldwide.com. That kind of just gives an overview of some of the projects that we're on. It's a little outdated now, but now that I'm saying it on camera, by the time you get there, it might be updated.
I'm going to release this video today.
There you go. Today. So it's just, I'm kind of behind the scenes. I'm not a big fan of trying to be the expert and be on TV, or that's not my play. My play is really entrepreneurship and doing what I love and adding a lot of value.
Awesome. Well, you're doing great work. Thank you very much. I thought this was a very interesting conversation. I very much like the beginning, and so to all our listeners, love to get your thoughts and feedback on this, and check out realgrowthworldwide.com, and if you want further elaboration on marketing, I'll probably be interviewing Manny in the future for geniusnetwork.com and for ilovemarketing.com and stuff like that. But even if I don't, you should go there anyway. And thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I appreciate
Thanks,
it, man.
John.
All right, have a great day.